You have a presence here. It's trying to figure you out. It's trying to connect to you.
She just stopped breathing. Dead in her own bed. Can you imagine the parents finding her?
It's suffering. Just like you are.
Presence was directed by Steven Soderbergh, written by David Koepp, and was released in January of this year and has just come out on the digital streaming platforms. I was really looking forward to seeing this film. I had seen the trailer and I sort of got the basic grasp of what it was about. However, I understand it was a divisive film because the trailer did sell it as more of a horror film than what it actually is. The basic premise is a family buys a house and they move into it, a really, really awesome house. But as the film starts, we see the POV of them arriving, we see the POV of the estate agent, and at first we don't realise it is what it is. Now, it becomes quite apparent quite quickly what it is, and it's a spirit that's haunting the house. The family seem quite happy and they don't seem to notice anything apart from the sister who has gone through tragedy. Now, she has lost a couple of friends in her life, and she's quite withdrawn. And the majority of the family treat her as if she's quite withdrawn, but she seems to sense a presence in the house, and that's really where the story takes off. Now, I can understand why people would be upset at what the film actually is, as opposed to what the trailer portrayed it to be. The main players, Lucy Liu, is the mum in the family, is really good in it. Now, she seems to have a distant relationship with her daughter. It's never really explained why that relationship is the way it is, as she's drawn more to her son, and she gets on better with her son. But the father is a quite endearing character, and he's quite endearing towards his daughter, as you would be, but he's much more understanding than what the mother appears to be. Now, as the film progresses, more events sort of happen where the spirit makes itself more known, and this tends to happen between family arguments, and it tends to happen when anyone is maybe attacking the daughter. Now, you do begin to believe that this spirit is attached to the daughter in some way, and about the midway point, they introduce a medium, which the mum's not happy about, but the father's quite on board about. The mum thinks maybe it's a bit of a, a fucking cash grab thing, which it sort of transpires to be, but the medium does appear to be quite genuine. And she does highlight that this is connected to the daughter in some way, and the daughter has maybe a sense of mediumship herself, where she can sense certain things from beyond life and anything that's passed on. I really enjoyed this film. I think it really has different enough elements of a tried and tested genre, being the haunted house genre, where it makes it interesting. I know a lot of people didn't like it, and I can understand why they might not have liked it. And that's really just down to, again, as I've said, how the trailer sold the film. This is much more a supernatural drama and not really a horror film. It follows the family through this tragedy, and as they're trying to cope with it, it seems in their own individual ways. The brother of the family, the son of Lucy Liu, he doesn't really seem attached to it in any way. And he's just like, right, all about himself, and he wants to move past it, and he really is very dismissive of his daughter, as is the mother, which is really strange. There's some scenes in the film that Lucy Liu's having a conversation with her son, and she has her back to her daughter, who's clearly upset about the past events of what happened, and they don't really seem to be paying much attention to her. This leads to a significant point in the film where it's clear that the ghost is fucking pissed off at what's going on here, and it lets it be known that it's pissed off. Now, how the camera moves throughout the house, I mean, the camera is never static, and it was shot on an iPhone. Personally, that doesn't really bother me. I mean, as a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker myself, I've always been of the approach, and many others, and clearly Soderbergh, it makes no difference what the fuck the film is shot on. As long as the story keeps you engaged, nobody's really going to query, oh, that was shot on an iPhone, oh, that was shot on an Alexa, oh, that was shot on a Red. Nobody's really going to pay any attention to that, unless you tell people like Soderbergh did, which you know, I don't know why, but maybe he's like, oh, look what you can do with an iPhone. Maybe he's fucking sponsored by Apple or something. Maybe that's why. But it really, really helps the action of the spirit itself, because it's much, much easier to get that floating type feeling with an iPhone and setting up fucking loads of cameras around the house. It is a bit apparent in some sort of scenes where it's quite dark, and I think that maybe that's just due to iPhones not being great in low light, but aside from that, that's not a big deal. The majority of the scenes are really well lit, and intentionally so for the use of how it was shot. But that constant lilting, floaty feel is really, really well achieved with the use of the iPhone, and every shot is from the POV of the spirit, which I enjoyed. It's always listening in, and there's that voyeuristic element that's really so very well, even during the most mundane conversations, which are rare in the film. Every scene and every conversation has its purpose, and it's always leading to where the main story's going, and it's always leading to the reveal of actually what is happening. Now, on the midpoint, I would say pay close attention. Personally, for me, this is what I went, oh fuck, hang on. Maybe what I thought was going on isn't going on. The medium highlights something when she's in connection with the spirit. She says something about the spirit not knowing who it is, where it is, if it's from the past or if it's from the present or if it's from the future. And when that was brought up, it clicked something to me where I went, oh, maybe the spirit isn't who the daughter thinks. She believes it's her friend trying to communicate with her. So overall, it's a really well-made film. There are some gaps in logic. I mean, there's certain scenes where they aren't really pursued. They're not brought up again. And the father has a sort of scene himself where he's on the phone to someone and he indicates that he's like coming apart and he can't take it. But it stops there. There's no sort of progression or a push or investigation into how he feels. But maybe it's because he's concentrating more on his daughter and being a good parent. He's hiding his emotion to help her and focus her. But those are nitpicks. I mean, plot logic in a film about a fucking haunted house is really, they're nitpicks, as I say, so it's not such a big deal. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was well acted, and I thought it was really well put together. And I thought every scene was intentionally, purposefully clever in the context of what it's about. Without going into spoilers, and I don't want to spoil the end. I don't want to say, this is the reveal, this is the spirit, and this is why it's there. But a con for me is the character that's introduced about a third of the way into the film. The brothers befriended like a popular guy at school because he sort of wants to be in with the popular group. And the character wasn't the problem for me, it's the guy who played it. Now, I don't know anything about the actor, but I just thought it was overdone, and it was much more melodramatic than the rest of the cast and what was happening to them throughout the main story. So it didn't really like the character. Also, his sort of purpose, I didn't necessarily buy it. But again, those are nitpicky things. His relationship to everything that's going on is in a clever way, well done, but there was just something about how it was played that it didn't really fall well for me. However, the remainder of the characters are all really real well played. There are scenes that have that typical haunted house feel about them, where there are supernatural things that happen, and they're really well done, but they're minor and they're fleeting and they're few and far between. So don't go into this film if you haven't seen it expecting, some over-the-top thing like The Conjuring or something like that. It's not like that. It's closer maybe in tone to like a modern Amityville, but not as histrionic or melodramatic as Amityville. But it definitely had those vibes to it. And it was, like I say, a really, really well-made film. But what's your thoughts? What's your opinions? I'd love to get them in the comments. I personally enjoyed it. I know a lot didn't, but, that's not a problem. Films are there to be liked or not. Not everybody has to like everything. So that's it. I'm stuck up here in the garage again where it has got ball freezing again, but you do these things as you do because the kids are all on their gadgets in the house and I get relegated to the freezing cold. So hence all the makeshift lights and fucking shit all over the place to try and brighten up the darkness, as they say. Or maybe that's what we're always trying to do. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. See you at the movies. Cheers.